Hey everyone, it's Jake at Jake's Metal Chat. Hope you're all well and welcome to episode 87 of my Metal Vaults, where I will be exploring and showing you my favorite albums within the world of metal. As well as talking about the albums, I'll also be talking about the band, so a brief history and any releases leading up to the album that I have picked. And this one came out in the year of 1989 with a few albums I've already spoken about on here, at least two that I've already covered. World Downfall by Terrorizer and Altars of Madness by Morbid Angel, and also Consuming Impulse by Pestilence. And this is definitely an underrated classic right here. It would have been caught or lost in the shuffle. And for a handful of you in the VC will know this band and will know this release, or maybe their second release more. A lot of you would have heard the name, seen the logo, but didn't check them out back then, but have checked them out quite recently, or 10, 15 years ago. But definitely a band that I think people should check out if you love your death metal, your grindcore, and your crossover. I am talking about Righteous Pigs, who, well, before he joined Napalm Death, well, this is how I heard about this band. So, if you've seen the interview where they're in Birmingham on along the little dock area where you see like factory buildings and 'cause Birmingham a very industrial city. You see Mitch Harris and you also see Jesse talking about their bands. Of course, I mentioned Terrorizer, and Jesse was in Terrorizer. And then Mitch Harris mentioned this band right here. So, without further ado, let's get on with showing you the album. And once again, this is Righteous Pigs. This is their 1989 debut, Live and Learn. Definitely one hell of a great listen. Released on Nuclear Blast Records, and of course there is the man himself pointing with my cursor here instead of with my finger, but where's my finger? There he is, right there. And 14 tracks, so a lot of the songs are ranging from a second, 50 seconds to 1 minute to 2 minutes. But yeah, this was Mitch Harris's first ever band, one of his earliest bands. Of course, you got a nice little gatefold here with some pictures and lyrics with the logo in the background. And I got this at Black City Records, and the sleeves in there nice and safe with all my other vinyl that I have shown here on the channel. This is a first pressing from the year it was released, and it's in a lot. It's really in good nick, and just an album. I think, like I said, it would have got caught in the shuffle because you had albums like Altars of Madness, Severed Survival, Consuming Impulse, and World Downfall, and Practice What You Preach, which one hell of a great album by Testament. One hell of a great album. But this one right here, like I said, a handful of you would have known this band, checked them out, or heard of the band, but didn't check them out back then. So, before I talk about the album, let's talk about the band. So, Righteous Pigs. Where are they from within America? They are from what they formed in Las Vegas, Nevada in 1986, and then split up in the year of 1990 after their second album, Stress Related. Then reformed in 1993 to do a reunion show on the 1st of January of that year. Then reformed in 2012, played Maryland Death Fest in May of 2013, and then called it a day. But they did leave behind two albums. Of course, I only own this one so far. But before they did this album, and I have to note as well, on the 1st of January 1993, they did that reunion show without the bass player because he had scheduling conflicts and any couldn't fit the reunion show in. So before they split up in the year of 1990, they managed to release, of course, two demos and two albums. So let's get on with the demos. The first one's called Our Demo, which was released in 1987. It consists of 3 tracks, no, 6 tracks. And you would think with a demo 6 tracks, you're like, okay, that's more like an EP length. But you got to remember this is grindcore death metal crossover, so the songs are much shorter. Ranging from the 1 minute to 2 minute mark, even like 30 seconds to 55 seconds, which is what you would normally get with bands of that caliber. Fast paced, in your face songs. And then you got the second demo, which is demo 2, which consists of 3 tracks, and that was released in July of 1987. And of course, an independent release. And then you get on to the debut, which is when they signed to Nuclear Blast Records and released Live and Learn in the year of 1989. Not sure when. Don't even think it says here on the back of the album. It says when it was recorded. So 15th of May to 6th of June of 1988. So, 15th of May and 6th of June 1988 at the was it RSM Studio Las Vegas, and of course it was mixed at Paramount Studios in Hollywood on the 13th of November 1988. So this would have been released, I want to say, about early mid of 1989. I'm not entirely sure when. If anyone does know, please comment down below. Yeah, one hell of a fun album to listen to. And it's 14 tracks, like I said earlier. So 4 members overall. So you got Mitch Harris on guitar and vocals. You got Stephen, I'm not going to try and say his last name, but this was his only band he was in, on bass. You got Joe on vocals and Scott on drums. And also for guest musicians, they had someone called Greg doing drums on tracks 3, 6, 8, 11, and 13. So they had 2 drummers for this album. And of course, for the engineering recording, you had Talbot Snow, Lou Carto Jr. I hope I said his last name right. He did the recording, and this was his only album he did. Same with audio. I think that's how it's pronounced. So I'm gonna forget his name up. It's Aurilio. Audio Cavo. Again, I might be butchering that. That was the only album he did mixing before. And then we had Stephen Big on the artwork, and then Tommy on the logo. So that's who was on the album. And this album here, from start to finish, has got that same even pace and flow. The guitar tone and bass tones are raw. The drumming is just pounding as ever, and the vocals is not that typical death metal style that you would normally hear. But like I said, it's not just death metal, it's grindcore and it's crossover as well. So his vocals, Joe's vocals, are more on that crossover style mixed with the sound of grindcore and death metal, but it definitely, from start to finish, it's got that feel. So you start off pretty much straight away with the first song, Stone Cold Bitch. And one of the shorter songs on it is actually the second track, which I'll get to in a minute. So you start off with Stone Cold Bitch with that grindcore crossover style with death metal style guitar playing from Mitch, sorry. And then you got Steve Fun, as his name's pronounced. If you click on his profile on here on the Metal Archives. And then you got the song I Hope You Die in a Hotel Fire, still carrying on with what the first song started off with. So you got like intense, full on, like guitar playing, bass playing, drumming, vocals, like constant black, like not in every song. Actually, pretty much you get constant blast beats throughout this album, but it's not overdone. And then you got the song Just Friends, which has got more of that crossover style as opposed to the majority of this album, which is more grindcore death metal. So that's more on the think like Suicidal Tendencies, bands like that, and Uncle Slam with that crossover style. Then you got Malevolent Supplication, and I've got to say the second track is 59 seconds long, so that is actually the shortest song on this entire album. Where everything is like 1 minute 26, 25, 29 to 2 minutes and 21 seconds, that being the last song. And then you got Stall Softener, which is the track right after Malevolent Supplication. Again, carrying on that full on death metal grindcore invasion. And then you got Flee the uh, Jurification. Sorry, the Jurisdiction. Sorry, I don't know why I was reading that wrong. Flee the Jurisdiction. And then Joint Effort, which has this what was it? Sample. I don't know what the sample's from, but if you've heard the album, you know what the sample's from. But yeah, it's got that, and then it just kicks right into where everything else, what everyone else was playing, like where it started off with the very first track. And then you got Dormant Catastrophe. Again, just a full-on bombardment of death metal, grindcore style playing with crossover style vocals. Same with Celibate Tease. Again, still carrying that on. It's all just constant bombardment of fierce guitar playing, fierce bass playing, blast beats galore. And yeah, it's just a like I said, start to finish, you're gonna be like, yep, this is definitely an album. Like this is definitely one you could play at the gym. And then you got Misconduct, still carrying on that barrage of just intensity. Same with Hidden Zit. You can definitely tell what sort of song titles they were going with. And then Destined to Rot, again, with that bombardment of fierce guitars, bass, drums, vocals. And then Minor Consumption is, well, so we're getting very closer to the end of this album, so only on track 13 here. And then right after that, we got Incontinent, which is the, just looking at the track listing again, is longer than, I'm trying to think what the longest one, like, so the second longest one, I would say, well, we'll go to Stone Cold Bitch and Hidden Zit. And then you get, where is it? Oh, not no, joint effort, which is 1 minute 26. Maybe. No, wait. I went wrong. So Misconduct is 1 minute 32. So, and then Celibate Tease is longer than that by 2 minutes. And then you got Dormant Catastrophe, which is 1 minute 42. So it would go Incontinent being the longest one, and then it would go to track number 8, and then 9, 10, and then 11. Yeah, the list goes on. Obviously, when you look at, I'm trying to find the tracks now. Where is it? Joint Effort is just a minute longer than Stall Softener, and of course you got a lot of those songs which are longer than basically Malevolent Supplication, which is 1 minute 2 seconds, and then the one longer than that is Flee the Jurisdiction. But yeah, but overall, good pace. I don't normally just go into talking about the song lengths, but obviously it's grindcore mixed with death metal and crossover, and death metal songs are more longer than grindcore songs, and even to an extent, crossover songs which do have like songs that are like 3, 4 minutes, even 5 minutes long, but a lot of them being in the 2, 3 minute mark. But definitely with Incontinent being 2 minutes 21, it finishes off this album perfectly. But if that's not your thing, you don't like fast-paced um style of songs, then this might not be for you. But if this is definitely an album that you like, a band that you like, and you're watching this episode right now, this is definitely something that you would enjoy. I definitely enjoyed it. I remember hearing at least one, two, or maybe all of these back in like 2008, 9, probably 2010, thinking, gotta check out Righteous Pigs. And yeah, got really into it. And I hope that's a band for you as well. And of course, they did one more album after this, Stress Related, and of course, split up in that year of 1990. And of course, mentioned reformed in 93 for one show, or I think it was only just one show, not entirely sure. But then reformed 2012 to 2013, did Maryland Death Fest that year of 2013, and then left. Whoever got to see those guys there, I'm very jealous. But yeah, this is one hell of a great underground album, an awesome underground album. And of course, usual conclusions would be heavy, intense, just a barrage of blast beats and fierce guitar and bass playing, and a nice mix of those crossover thrash metal top style vocals. What crossover? But then you got crossover thrash, but yeah, definitely the vocal style fits it very well. And I think another band that I can think of that has that same sort of style of vocals would be, I'm trying to remember his name, but he was in the band Ripping Corpse, so that sort of style of vocal. So definitely got that feel for it, because thinking about him then and hearing this, I was like, oh yeah, definitely Ripping Corpse. Just obviously listening to a little bit more before doing this video, definitely has that same sort of feel. And of course, it's always going to be a timeless classic. So if you are a fan of crossover, grindcore, death metal, and you're looking for something new, then there's this album from 1989. And if you're curious to listen to Righteous Pigs, I say check this one out. Or even their last release, Stress Related. But definitely an album for fans of all three of those genres. So, this is Righteous Pigs with Live and Learn, and that is it for another episode of my Metal Vault. Sorry it took a while to do. I was going to do it Wednesday, like I said in my Instagram story, but I was knackered after the gym, and of course I had my gig with my band the day after, so was preoccupied with that. But finally got this done. Apologies once again, and of course your support means everything. So thank you very much for listening to me prattle on and just ramble, which I tend to do. And do all the usual, like, share, comment down below, and subscribe if you enjoyed this series or enjoyed my channel overall. Keep up to date with what other episodes I got coming up, because I will be putting in the community posts what other episodes I got coming up and when they will be released. Of course, a collection update there. You probably can't see them, but there's half of it there, pretty much all of it now. And so those next episodes of my Metal Vault will be recorded and out, because I am going to be quite busy around, well, next month. So anyway, I'm going to shut up and let you guys get on with the rest of your evening or day, wherever you're in the world. I've been Jake's Metal Chat. Keep the banner of metal well and truly high. Do take care of yourselves, and I'll see you all again in another episode of my Metal Vault.